Hey, welcome everybody to Spirituality Adventures. We're glad you're tuning into this episode. We are a viewer and listener supported podcast, so we really appreciate you listening, watching on YouTube. We really encourage you to subscribe to whatever platform you're using. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, or if you're on Apple or however you listen to a podcast, be sure and subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. Also, make comments if you like it and share it if you like it. We really need people to make comments and share the episodes that you like. And then also, if you're not already a supporter, we really would encourage you to go to spiritualityadventures.com and you can pick a tier, and we have bonus content for every type of giver. This is a nonprofit, so they're tax-deductible donations, but we do provide bonus content for those who are supporters. So be a part of the team, help support Spirituality Adventures, and we're so glad you're tuning in. All right, welcome everybody to Spirituality Adventures. Thanks for tuning into this episode, and we're excited to introduce you, if you don't know already, Julia Reynolds. She is a Kansas City singer-songwriter, and you can check her out at Julie Reynolds Music.
Yep.
And that's on Instagram, Facebook. She's got 2 albums that came out in 2022.
Yep.
Excellent albums. Queen of Crazy, which I love that title.
Thank you.
And then Lemon Tree. And I liked both of them, but I'm a sucker. I'm saying that funny wise, but I love alt folk music.
Nice.
So the one you did with Michael Johnson, I really love. But I love Queen of Crazy too.
Thank you.
And it's more of an electronic, kind of electronic.
It's very eclectic.
Yeah.
I call it electro rock.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of alt rock, but it's also electro pop. It's also a few other things. I don't know what they are. So I usually just call it electro rock.
So before we get to your music, I want to get a little of your backstory, right? I always like to hear, like where were you born? Where did you grow up? What's some of your family of origin story? And then give us a little bit of your spiritual journey. And that you got to kind of wrap all of that.
I know, that's like a lot.
Maybe a few minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. It doesn't have to be
What's
super
your life?
short.
Go.
But where were you born? Where'd you grow up?
Okay, so I was born in Independence, Missouri. Parents moved from there to Lawson, Missouri, a little tiny town, when I was less than 1. So I grew up there. Like, I'm from Independence, but I grew up, was, basically born and raised Lawson. Very small, very quaint, cute little town. Yep. It's up, it's like about about an hour, Kansas City, give or take.
Yeah, isn't it between between Kearney and Chillicothe or Cameron?
Kind of.
It's
probably more like Cameron.
Yeah,
it's like the next. I mean, there's towns between, but it's like one of the main towns, like in between, like Liberty and all those, and Cameron. I
think I think one of my female pastors at Vineyard was from that town, but she's a little older than you. She's maybe getting. I don't know how old she is. A little older than you. Anyway.
Nice.
Yeah, she was a baseball, softball player. Her dad was a coach. Anyway.
Well, that's part of it, too, is I don't know very many people from my town.
Okay.
I didn't know very many people growing up anyway. I was homeschooled.
Okay. All
the way through. We were going to homeschool just the beginning, the elementary, and then the middle school, and then we were like, screw it, we made it this far. Let's just do it all the way. And, of course, I got into music really young.
Yeah, tell us about your music. How did you get into music?
Yeah, so a lot of that, I mean, I've always been into it. There's like a video
were your parents musical?
Kind of. My mom plays fiddle. She grew up playing fiddle, not professionally or anything, but just for fun. Pretty dang good. My dad, he doesn't like play any instruments, actually, but he's got the gift, like he'll sing around the house all goofily, and you're like, dang, that's actually really good. And he's like, no, it's not. So, he has it, he just doesn't do it kind of thing. So my grandpa played accordion, like, amazingly.
Wow.
Apparently. I never met him, but apparently he played amazing, and I have his accordion now.
Well, that's fun.
Fun fact, I played it on Lemon Tree a couple songs.
Oh, really?
So that was special. But, yeah, so there's a bit of background, but I was the first, as far as I know, least for a while, that took it professionally.
Yeah.
But
It seems like kids who grow up around parents who are musicians start young, right?
oh yeah. And my mom's an artist too, professional artist. So it's, that part of like doing your art professionally, even though hers is visual, that kind of
Like she painting or?
Yeah, mostly painting, a few other things too, but
Cool.
that kind of,
Cool.
oozed into me a little bit. I'm like, oh, I can like do that for real,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So being homeschooled, did you get into any kind of musical experiences outside the home? Like, did you get involved in music at like I don't know, like a church or like some other venue or something?
Oh yeah. So I mean, it kind of started really. A lot of it did start at church, because I mean, I had always gone to church as a kid, like most of my childhood, and I started. I think the first time I sang at church, like a solo, I think I was like 6 years old.
Okay.
And then everyone was so supportive and like,
Yeah.
I had a bit of an ego. So I was like, oh, you like me.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this again,
Right.
So I kept singing, and that's not how I acted back then.
Yeah.
That's a recent thing. But no, but I loved it. I loved how it brought everyone together. I loved how it made me feel, which all that's the same thing to me now, but I just kept doing it. And then I joined the choir, and I joined the praise band. And as I got older, I joined the kids' praise band. Then I joined the choir, which was not the kids' choir. They brought me in, which was really cool, because they didn't really do that with kids much. So that was really an honor, because I was only probably 13. So that was really impactful for me. And some of my favorite memories in the church were singing with them. And the praise band was cool. Played with the adult praise band a little while after that. Played keys a lot. And do some singing here and there. And it did bring me into that space.
Yeah. It's so fascinating. I have probably we've been doing this almost 3 years. I have interviewed dozens and dozens of local singer-songwriters from Kansas City and some outside of Kansas City. And I've done hip-hop artists, rap artists, country, all pop, and psychedelic funk, and every kind of thing you could think of, right? And even some classical band, Calvin's been on here. He can do about anything, but his harp, and he's trained vocally, operatically, all that kind of stuff. So, but the crazy thing is that almost all of them started in churches. Even the rap hip hop folks started in churches.
I mean, I'm really not surprised.
So what's interesting is that even though many of these artists have now left the church for all kinds of various reasons, it was still the birthplace. And it's just true across, I've heard this all over America.
Wow.
It's been the birthplace of many, many musicians' first times to perform and do music and stuff like that. So, I'm thinking,
that's powerful.
Yeah, I'm thinking for all there's a lot of religious trauma out there that the church has caused, and many of us have experienced that in a lot of different ways. But for all of that, there's still some good things that have come out of it, and so that's really interesting. So you got your start there.
That's cool.
But it didn't always hold as a positive experience for you, evidently. Is that right? You kind of went through some, let's call it religious trauma, or let's call or some pain or something. Definitely around that.
Definitely.
How did that impact you and affect you?
So I mean, a lot of it. Oh man, I don't even know where to start. There's some of it I'm not comfortable talking about quite yet, because some of it's pretty recent still. Okay. So circle back in a couple of years, I'll tell you more. Okay. But I mean, it was the church I grew up in was very strict. It was evangelical. It was Methodist, but it was a very strict Methodist. I don't know how other Methodist churches are, but I've heard that a lot of them are still a little more loosey-goosey, That one, not so much. And it was very, very judgmental. It was a very large church I went to. And I mean, not everything about it was bad. You know, there was a good community, you know. That is one thing I miss about church is the community. You know, just the having like that extended family, you know. Since I've left, I've had to kind of build my own in a way, you know, which takes longer, but it works. But, you know, you don't automatically have all these people around you.
Right.
But it was very, I grew up like,
Sorry. So this is crazy. Hey, fans, listeners, I had my phone on silent, and I had that thing, you know, where you don't, you know, anyway, it's not supposed to do that. Anyway, I had it all shut off, and it's for some reason when I've got my iPad going and my phone and it's all off, but it's still, like that was a phone call, it still does that. Anyway, sorry.
That sort of stuff happens when I'm around all the time. I don't know why.
Yeah. It's the goblin. It's the goblins. Right?
Yes.
Right.
But
yeah, it is Halloween season, you know.
It is.
So,
it definitely is.
Yeah. So we don't know what's going on. Anyway.
It's so spooky.
Right.
But
okay, so
yeah, where were we?
yeah, so you were in the church was too rigid.
Yes.
Too legalistic. Too many rules.
Lots of rules
that don't make sense.
Yes.
Is that
precisely?
Is that where it's at?
Sounds like you've heard of this before. Weird.
I've been down that rabbit hole. All right. But yeah.
Yeah, very lots of oh yeah, you like this, or you're like this, or oh that's wrong. You're gonna go to hell. You know, those sorts of things. I grew up in the church, so that's all I knew. All I knew was you gotta act this way, you gotta be this way, you gotta believe this specifically this way. Most of it didn't make sense. Most of it, honestly, people were just kind of pulling it out of their bums to, you know, lack of better words. So, you know, it just kind of, as a kid, though, I mean, that's normal. If that's all you know, you're like, oh, you know, this authority figure is telling me this. It must be right. And so I grew up most of my childhood, you know, I look back and I was probably pretty close to perfect within their rules. You know, I was doing pretty much everything they said to do, not doing what they said not to do. You know, of course, occasionally on the things that were a little too impossible, I'd find little loopholes, that sort of thing. But nonetheless, I was solid. And then, you know, as I got older, I was like, this is really not okay. You know, and it gradually set in, you know, and I was very, I wasn't just into following it, but I was hardcore, like, journaling, writing, reading the Bible. I have read or listened to, like, audiobook form, probably almost the entire Bible, if not the entire Bible. I actually wanted to go to school for theology before. So it was a very, like, I got really into it.
Yeah.
You know, from a kid clear through my teenage years, I was very, very into it. And part of that, I think, is what kind of made me realize this is really screwed up. The things you're saying, the things you're judging people for and telling them that these terrible things are going to happen to them for are really not justified. Not to mention a lot of them aren't even, like, in Holy Scriptures anyway. You know, so it started dawning on me that something felt a little off. Realized there was, like, a power dynamic going on that really wasn't very godly, I guess. You know. So I kind of went off on my own little journey, you know, figuring out what I thought about it, and it took me a very dark place for a while. You know, when I realized, you know, all of that, it kind of made me think, oh, you know, my life is a lie. The Matrix is real. It felt like the whole, like, taking the red pill or whatever.
Yeah, you went down the rabbit hole.
Yes. Yeah. Precisely.
See how far it goes.
Exactly, which is terrifying. And I was very young when it happened, so it was just
I hear you.
Extra terrifying.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really helped me with that was I started working at... So we left that church that we were going to, the Methodist one. They had switched pastors when I was pretty young. I vaguely remember the pastors that were there when we started going there. I remember they were nice. I remember some of the stuff they said was really good. That's about all I remember. The next one, he was nice enough, but I remember as a kid I sat there and I was like, he just conflicted himself 20 times just now. And I'd start taking notes. I was like, he said this, but he also said this 10 minutes later in the sermon, and these precisely go against each other. And that kind of, jump-started that a little bit, in combination with being treated terribly at the church by both adults and my peers. That wasn't fun either. But, so, just a nice, perfect storm to throw me into all that. And then we left that church after trying to stick with it, because, we knew people. We were friends with people that went there. There were hundreds of people that went there, so that's hundreds of friends you're walking away from if you leave. But, new pastor, not great. There was a lot of politics going on, lots of drama. Even the praise band and the choir were fighting each other all the time.
Uh-oh.
Which I was in both.
Church fights.
So that hurt. It's like Romeo and Juliet, except I was both. So, left there, didn't go to church for a few years, got this job at a church in Lawson. It was a Presbyterian church. And it was a very small church. And I basically got the job because I was singing there for some gathering of sorts. They had hired me to sing some Christmas songs at the piano, and someone heard me from upstairs, and they were like, "Who is that? What is this voice?" And they came in and talked to me, and it was the pastor that was coming in, just been hired, and her coworker. And they talked to me, and they offered me the job of music director and pianist, and I was going to be leading some of the hymns, and they brought me in there, and some of those days were some really good days with them. So my coworker and her assistant guy was named Bruce, and he was an artist. He was very flamboyantly gay. And he was an incredible singer. He was an opera singer.
Oh, wow.
He had this voice that could shake the whole building. Incredible. And he was the nicest guy. He was super eccentric. Total crazy dude. Love him. He sadly passed away a couple of years ago, and I miss him a lot. His birthday was a week ago. And then Cindy was the pastor. And she is just this very loving, kind, very empathetic person, very, very smart. And she basically took all the hurt that had happened and just set it aside and was she pretty much taught the Bible how if I were to teach it, I would teach it. Just here's the thing. Here's what we can get from it. Here's my opinion. I'm going to let you know it's my opinion, though. I'm not going to, act like it's gold. What's yours? What do you think? And I love you, and I love you, and I love you, and you're different from each other, and I think that's beautiful. And if you're not hurting anyone, then cool. And that's how she was. And it just made me realize, wow, there's actually... There are people who look at this in a way that they don't use it as a weapon, And so the pain still persists. And a lot of the people, even, dare I say, in that church, there were some that were that way still. And, so I still was around it. And then she left. And Bruce left shortly after. And I tried sticking around, and I just couldn't do it. It went right back to how the other church I went to was. It felt like... and nothing against the people that were in there, but it just didn't fit me,
Yeah.
And it's I don't want to, I have to be careful how I say it, because it's some of this might be fine for people.
Sure.
But for me, I couldn't, man. I couldn't. Saying that something is a certain way without having some way to back it up, especially if it's going to hurt someone.
Yeah. Right.
Just can't wrap myself around that. So I haven't been to church since. That was years ago now. So that's.
But you've explored some
Generally,
other spiritual paths, right?
Oh yeah.
And what has resonated with you at this point in terms of spirituality? So
there was a time in between after I left that job that I got a job at a horse barn. So I'd get up in the morning and I'd go over there. I mean, crack of dawn, sun's just coming up, and I would, super quiet, all alone, I would just clean out the stalls. Feed the horses, pet the horses, hug the horses, talk to the horses. And it was a very grounding experience. This was also the time where I was going through crazy depression, anxiety stuff too. So, I mean, this was like literally everything was happening all at once. And this was, the horse stuff was like right at the beginning of the pandemic.
Okay.
So it kind of all lines up there.
Yeah.
And during those days, I did a lot of thinking because it was so quiet and I was in nature and did a lot of thinking, a lot of talking to myself, a lot of talking to God, a lot of listening to podcasts. And that's where Anna Dimmel comes in.
Yeah, I saw that you'd mentioned her.
And Calvin.
Okay, yeah.
So Calvin Arsenia.
Yeah, Calvin was doing the We Were Christian Kids during the pandemic with his friend Justin Randall.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I was already a fan of Calvin because I had met him a long time ago at the Rhino. Went to, I think it was Aaron James was opening for him, which I was a fan of him. And so I went to see him, and then Calvin was playing, and I was just like enthralled. I was like, oh my God, this is like, he goes up on stage and it's just like everything else pauses. This is all that matters.
That's awesome.
He's incredible. I will never forget that show. He turned that tiny venue into a auditorium, I swear. It was beautiful. So, watched him for a long time, stalked his Instagram and Facebook all those years. He started that podcast, and I was like, I'm going to listen to this while I'm here. I never had really listened to podcasts before. That was kind of a new thing. So I got my little Bluetooth earbuds, stuck them in, and buckled in for the ride.
Yeah.
And so much of what he said resonated with me. So much. And the guests he had as well. Yeah,
they had some good guests. I loved what they were doing.
Excuse me.
When he opened just a few months ago, his new album, Paradise.
I haven't heard it yet.
I went down there
I feel terrible.
for one of the opening nights. And,
you did. I'm jealous.
And Justin was there. Justin actually, I'm not sure where he lives right now, but I think he still lives in New York.
Really?
But anyway, I got to meet Justin.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. Yep.
He's awesome.
I've had Calvin and his partner over for dinner and grilled out for him, all that kind of stuff. It was fun.
That's so
fun
nice.
Stuff. Yeah. But he's a great human being. Love him to death. So, well, good stuff, man. So let's talk about your music. When did you start writing your very first songs? Young.
I remember, I think the first memory I have of writing, I guess, was I remember sitting in the back of my parents' car, looking out the window. I must have been maybe 4, 5.
Wow.
Maybe less. And I remember humming music, like songs, melodies. And they were not a song already. They were mine. I was just making them up. That's the first memory. So, I was doing that way back. And
That's so fascinating to me.
As I got older, I started hearing other things in my head. I remember I heard like a whole orchestra in my head, and I could pick out all the different parts. And I think at that point I was probably like 6 or 7. I think that was like the first like peak of like the fact I was going to be a producer showed up, because I'm like, I have all these different parts. Like I have a whole arrangement in my head. So just kind of gradually, kept getting more and more full.
Yeah.
I started actually writing like lyrics and things. I don't know how old. It was pretty young too, but the first completed song I did, like with the piano and singing, was called In My Dreams. I still play it a lot. And I'm actually planning on playing it today.
Oh, sweet.
And I was 13 when I finished that.
Oh, wow.
So, but before that, it was all like little snippets and, you know, little poems and stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of just turned into that gradually.
So when you went through some of the anxiety, depression stuff, and then you've got 2 albums out that came out in 2022.
Yep.
Queen of Crazy and Lemon Tree. One's kind of electronic, eclectic, and one's alt folk.
Yep.
And I mean, definitely some of your songs, you know, come out of that place
definitely.
of either pain or trauma or struggle.
I think at least most of Lemon Tree did.
Yeah.
If you listen to it, you're like, oh my God, go get some therapy, girl. Like, you okay?
It's kind of therapeutic, though, isn't it, to do the
definitely.
music and write about it, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I went to therapy, but the music was just as good.
Yeah, right.
The recording studio, just as good.
Where did you record, by the way?
I recorded at Weights and Measures Sound Lab, Kansas City. Dwayne's the man. He is a wizard.
Who else do we know that records there, Matt?
Oh man, there's a lot.
Lots
A lot of people. Very, very popular.
Yeah.
He's gotten more busy now, and I'm having to book out pretty far ahead. I'm like, come on, man. I'm glad you're getting business, but everyone needs to quit using you so I can have more time.
What were they connected to Chapman's, the old Chapman's studio, or not? Was that totally emerge out of something different?
Something else.
Okay. So Queen of Crazy.
Queen of Crazy.
What was your concept with that album and some of the songs that went into it?
So Queen of Crazy, I call it a mind dump album.
By the way, you can check this out. Apple, Spotify,
everywhere.
All the places. You can go to her Instagram, her website, all of that.
Yep.
Julie Reynolds Music.
Yep.
Julia
with an A. Yep. And Reynolds
music.
like the rap.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So concept behind Queen of Crazy. What were you?
Such a hard question.
And how long were those songs? You've had about 12 songs on that album or something like that?
I think so, like 11 or 12.
And
I can't remember. That's sad. I should know that.
That's your first album, right?
That's my first album out.
Yeah, and how many years were those songs written over?
So those particular songs were all written in the span of maybe like 2 years.
Like during the pandemic kind of thing, or earlier?
Like a little earlier,
Okay.
and throughout, I'd say maybe the year before, so probably 2019, roughly, was when a lot of them started happening. So, very long story short, I had been playing piano and singing and performing like that. I had a lot of songs, probably 2 or 3 albums worth, that I had been performing. Mm-hmm. Didn't know what to do with them. I had a band for a while. The band broke up. Stuff happened. Love them to death. It wasn't, it wasn't like a drama thing. It's just, our lives went different ways, which is a bummer, but it happens. Wasn't meant to be. So I was like, well, shoot, what do I do with these songs? Have all these songs, and some people knew them and loved them. And then I was like, you know what? I need to start producing, because I have all these I guess visions. It's not really visions if it's a sound, but you get the point. In my head of these whole, big arrangements and things, and I can't do them because I don't have a band. So I was like, that's the only thing I can really do. And I just found out what production even was. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know about DAWs or any of that stuff. I just started finding out about that. So I was like, that's what I need. That's what I've been dreaming of. So I went on Facebook Marketplace and I bought a 2011 MacBook. This was in 2019. It was getting old. It was like 8 years old. It was having issues, the poor thing. It was so slow. It was It was dying. And so I bought that and it had GarageBand on it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can do anything now. And I like plugged it into my keyboard, and after it loads for an hour and a half, then you can do whatever you want.
That's hilarious.
So I get in GarageBand and I create the first song on the album, Queen and Crazy, called Crowded Room.
That's a good song. I like that.
I did that song, I think, in like 2 or 3 days. The demo. So that one just came out. That was like the first official mind dump. Then the rest kind of just followed suit, and in between, like I did a couple, like 3 maybe, and then I actually got like a new MacBook, and it was 2020, got like a brand new one, and then got like, which was a gift. I was broke. I could not afford that. And then it had Logic on it. So upgraded, boom, and was able to finish the album. And I took it to Dwayne, and he mixed and mastered it. I didn't know how to do timing back then, so he fixed all of my timing. Thank you, Dwayne. I'm sure that was hell for you to do. And did all the vocals again and in the studio. So
that's
they were
cool.
good. And there you go.
Sounds great. Crowded Room.
Crowded Room.
Yeah, tell us about that one. I like that song.
So that song actually was inspired by my experiences as a kid. So when I was a kid, I went to youth group, and I went to 4-H at a time. I was doing both of those things. I was probably like 14 or so, give or take. And I always was like the one person in the room that was alone. Like, I was the only one without friends. I was the only one... Like, we'll put it this way. One time at the youth group, and this youth group was big. There was like 80 kids there every week. They did this game, and they're like, all right, everyone get a partner. Whoever doesn't get a partner is out. And I was the only person in 80 kids without a partner. Oh. And I just stood there like, hello, is there anyone going to come over here? And all the people that I thought maybe were like kind of my friend that I'd like talk to occasionally, they're all somewhere else. So I kind of just stood in the middle of this room like, nice, this is cool. And then I was out. So that's a good, that energy there is how it was all the time at both of these places, and the adults for some reason.
So you never felt like you quite fit in.
I mean, they were not.
Is that what am I hearing you right?
Oh, yeah.
You never felt like you were quite fitting in anywhere.
No.
Yeah.
People did not, I don't know, they didn't understand me. I didn't understand them either, so I guess it's pretty fair. Yeah. But I just, I'm looking.
So it's being in a crowded room, but you feel all these senses of loneliness or isolation or, alone.
In a crowded room, I was the only one. Yeah. That's one of the lines. So it's very, very, and everywhere I'd go, I was pushed away. So that, that's about
for some reason when I was
listening
to it, there's this song that Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys did called "In My Room." Did you ever hear "In My Room"?
Yes, I did. I have heard that song.
And it's an introvert.
It is a good song.
It's an introvert melody, right? A song about. But it for some reason when I heard the Crowded song, it made me think of that song about being in his room, because you're in this crowded place, but you're like in your own little room, your own little world. I don't know why it even clicked like that in my brain.
I love it.
But it did.
I'm going to take that as a huge compliment.
Well, I like the song. It was really.
Well, thank you.
I'm an introvert, so even though I've been people when they interact with me mostly see me as an extrovert because I'm in front of an audience, I'm speaking, I'm doing podcasts, I'm interviewing people, but I need alone time to recharge and replenish.
Me too. And looking back, honestly, I think I was an introvert, but since I was so eclectic and like kind of out there, goofball and dressed weird, and like I've always been that way. I thought I was an extrovert. A lot of people thought I was. And looking back, I'm like, well, maybe the reason I sat by myself, maybe part of it was because I wanted to, I mean, people were mean to me too, so there's that. Of course I'm not going to want to talk to them if they're all jerks. But, I didn't really go out of my way to go talk to people. If one person was mean to me, then I was like, I give up. Yeah, and I'd go and
pull back.
They don't know to go talk to me. Maybe they think I want to be alone.
Sure.
But I mean, I was a kid, so I didn't know. nonetheless, I definitely am an introvert, and I appreciate my alone time now.
Yeah, so, and people don't realize that because if you, by the way, you have a love for fashion and design, and evidently dance as well.
Yeah.
By the way, if you check out her Instagram, where in the world do you get all your costume changes? Oh my God! Like she is. You've got, and I want to hear that because you've done fashion, you've done a little modeling. What's the dance thing too? Talk, and then I want to come back to Lemon Tree. But first, where in the world do you get all your costumes? Check her Instagram out. I mean, she has got 1,000 looks.
I do have a lot of looks.
1,000 clothes. It looks like to me.
I have too many clothes.
Are you running?
I told you I'm a shopaholic.
Yeah, right. Like, do you go to Ditto? Do you go to the little? Where do you go?
A lot of them I get from the thrift store.
Yeah, that's what I was
little
wondering.
Pieces, and I put them together. A lot of it I design myself as well.
I'm gonna pop some tags.
So, oh yeah, oh yeah. But
it's an old Macklemore reference,
I've heard it before. But yeah, I mean, I think I counted my shoes like probably a year ago, and I had like 150 pairs.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, oh, I should probably go through these. I did go through them. I got rid of a lot. Now I have maybe 80 pairs. We're improving. We're self-improving. We're good.
Julia's mom is silently back here in the studio,
silently judging me.
And I'm like going, Mom, what's the deal with all what do you do with all these shoes? What do you do with all these clothes?
She needs a bigger house.
I do. See, that's why people need to give me some money so I can buy a house and put them in the house. The whole house will be full of clothes.
So is it just your intuitive sense of fashion and creativity and design, or have you studied fashion?
I mean, like, I've done some self-study myself. Like, I've never gone to college for it or any classes or anything like that. I did in 4-H do sewing, so I guess that could kind of count. Kind of. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I did learn a lot about sewing from that, and I do a lot of sewing now in my design, so I guess it makes sense. But the fashion itself, the styling,
it's all you.
Pretty much all me.
It comes out of your own sense of creativity and your love for this or that or the other.
So.
Yeah.
A lot of it is the thing with me where I'll get up in the morning, especially days when I have a show or something, where I put a little more energy into it, and I just, like, how do I feel today? And then I put that into a look. That's usually what I do.
Do you have a favorite season of the year that you like to correspond with in terms of fashion and what you wear?
Oh, man. Probably fall. Probably right now.
I mean, like Halloween. Like, I noticed you had a lot of fun Halloween posts.
Oh, yes. I love Halloween. Halloween's like my favorite. Halloween and Christmas are my two favorite holidays because you can do so much with them. And it's so fun. But, I mean, a lot of the thing with Halloween for me is that I go to Walmart or Dollar General or even the thrift store and they've got all this Halloween stuff and half of it I'd wear all year anyway. So basically they're taking, like when I go to the thrift store around Halloween time and they have their Halloween section, basically to me what they're doing is they're taking all of the stuff out of the store that I would want to buy and they're putting it in one spot. And they're saying, here you go, here's all the stuff you want. And then I, spend too much. It's fun.
That's funny. And then what about the dance stuff? Do you do dance
stuff?
Are you
grew up doing dance lessons, acrobatics.
Okay.
Those sorts of things.
Have you incorporated that into your live shows a little bit?
Oh yeah, and I'd like to more. I want to get more choreography involved.
Okay.
I used to do some choreography for fun. I did teach a dance class for a very short time. So it's kind of like I have a little experience with it. And I'm like, I do want to involve that. I want to bring that in there a little bit.
I asked Calvin, I said, hey, I'm interviewing Julia today. And
he's like my idol.
I always say, anything I should explore with her, is what I said.
Oh, no.
And he says, I do see her as someone who embodies creative freedom and hard work.
He said that?
It's right here.
What? Can you send me a screenshot of that so I can print it off and frame it?
I will do it. I will do it. And then he said that I'd be curious to know what rituals she participates in to carry her light so brightly. And I was like, okay, cool.
I just did my makeup, Calvin. You're going to make me cry and ruin it. Gosh, dang it, dude. Oh, man. So what rituals I do to make my light shine?
Yeah, things that are practices that
I see.
you incorporate in your daily or weekly routines.
Okay.
That stir your creativity and help you shine that beautiful light through you embody creative freedom. I thought that was a high compliment coming from Calvin. So
I'm going to frame that. I'm going to screenshot and frame it. Oh my gosh. Okay, now I got to get over the initial, wow, Calvin Arsenio just said that about me. Calvin, I'm like such a big fan, by the way, so if you're hearing this,
I'll send him
thank you.
I'll shoot him the link to the episode.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Yeah. Let me think. So I do all sorts of stuff. I'm all over the place, if you can't tell. But a lot for me is nature. You know, a lot of nature walks, a lot of grounding techniques. I do. I mean, a lot of that stemmed from my anxiety and depression meltdown in 2020. I kind of got to like this super low point where I was almost a vegetable, basically. Like I would just sit there, totally dissociated, totally like couldn't comprehend what was around me. Felt like I was like not even here, even though I was, you know. So I had to do a lot of grounding, a lot of, feel this, feel, it's hard, look around, what do you see? The five senses kind of stuff, what do you hear, what do you smell? The typical what your therapist tells you to do, which actually was pretty helpful for me. So that's good. But that kind of stuck with me. And then, of course, I learned, I don't remember, like, what the name of this ritual is, but there's this ritual where you, like, basically feel like you imagine the grounding energy from the ground, like, coming up through your feet. It's better if you, like, stand outside barefoot, which I'm constantly outside barefoot. And there's, like, science to that, too. Like, going outside barefoot's really good for you, as long as you don't, like, step on something stupid. So, you feel that energy, and then you feel the energy from the heavens coming down, and you just stand like that for a while and just imagine them both, like, coming through you and, like, how connected you are. That's a big one I do.
That's cool.
That one helps a lot. And it's kind of just, like, taking that I used from that dark time and, like, expanding upon it. That one's really good. And just, like, playing music without having a reason to play.
Right.
Like, it sounds simple, but just sitting down at the piano and just playing. Not worrying about how it sounds, not thinking about anything.
It's almost like you're channeling the energy of the universe through your playing. And
precisely.
You flow into this.
Yeah.
It's like, it'd be like me journaling, but you're just journaling through your music emotionally.
Exactly.
That's so cool. That's made me want to I don't play anything.
You don't?
No. My mom tried to make me play piano when I was a little kid, and I wanted to play basketball. So
that's fair. Basketball. I mean, basketball's cool.
No, but I love music. I've always been hanging out with musicians. Married a music major. All that kind of stuff. So
you've been around it.
I started a music company even just to help my musicians write and lean into them and stuff like that. So. Yeah, so I've always been hanging out with musicians, and I love that.
Yeah.
All right.
We're
real quickly, Lemon Tree.
Lemon Tree.
You did this with Michael Johnson, and I read this little, like you were in a live setting with Michael or something, or it sounded like you were the first time you played together was in front of a live audience. Am I right?
Oh, yes! And well, kind of. That's kind of
like he didn't know your music, but he like started playing it with you or something? So, I was like, how does that... and who is this guy? Who's Michael Johnson?
So many weird weird stories. We could probably talk all day, and I'm a big rambler.
This is her album that she released, Lemon Tree, in 2022. Yes. It's an alt-folk album. Be sure and check it out. Beautiful music.
Oh, thank you. So basically what happened, And Michael will tell me I get the story wrong.
Okay.
Like, he changes it when he tells it.
Sure.
So, we'll have slightly different takes on it. But
Right.
how I remember it is that my mom and him went to fiddle class together. Drunken Fiddles. Laurel Parks, yes. So they went to that. And I suck at fiddle, so I don't go. But basically, I had a gig coming up with my old band. And their schedules were a little wonky, and I wasn't sure if they were going to show up or not. That's always scary at a paid contracted gig coming up in like a week that you've advertised. Cool, yeah. So I was like, shoot, what do I do? Like, I can't do this show alone. Like, all the songs are like band songs. Like, I could do it alone, but it wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't work very well. I haven't practiced that way. And he's like, Mom's like, I know a bass player, and because he plays bass and guitar.
Okay.
I guess that's what it was. I didn't know if the bass player could be there or something. I can't remember. Anyway, basically, I was looking at him like maybe filling in. He was like, oh, that's too soon, I'll have to hear your music more, which is kind of ironic considering later in the story, but we'll get there. And so I'm like, okay, whatever, we'll meet up. We decided to meet up. Well, that show got canceled. It got rained out, which I was like, oh no, so sad. No, I was very thrilled. But, so, we were like, yeah, let's like jam. Let's jam and see, maybe we could play sometime. Maybe I could use you later for something. And so he comes over and we just hit it off. We just totally hit it off as people, but also musically. Like, we had this weird like telepathic thing going on like almost immediately where it was like we just kind of knew what the other person was going to do before they did it. It was weird. So we were like, yeah, we need to play together sometime. But I didn't think a ton of it, It was just like, oh, that was cool. Move on, Well, then I had another show scheduled with that one band that I used to have, and bless their souls. And I invited Michael to play like 3 or 4 songs as a guest for fun, And he shows up, and then I get a call, and the one person got lost on the way and decided to just give up and go back home. And then the other person like couldn't be there. I think he told me a couple days ahead, but it was still like pretty last minute. I don't know. Long story short, none of them showed up except Michael.
Oh, wow.
And we had I think 2 or 3 hour gig.
Wow.
There were quite a few people there too. It was for an art show. So luckily it wasn't like, an auditorium where everyone's staring at you. Like, we were kind of like extra, they go to like drink and look at the art. So like, that helped, but it was still like, oh my God, this isn't good. And so basically, I can't remember if I asked him to do this or he offered. He'll probably say I asked. I'll probably say he offered. But he ended up playing all of the songs. We had like these teleprompters with just the chord charts. That's it. The lyrics, the chords. And I was like, here, look at this. Hit this pedal. It switches the page. And he's like, okay. And he freaking nailed it. He sounded amazing.
It's impressive.
And so he played like 3 hours of songs he had never heard in his life. Amazingly. And then at the very end, we wanted, like, the crowd was like gathered around and they wanted us to play one more song and we didn't have any more. And we were like, which, I mean, granted, we could have probably played one from an hour ago because they probably wouldn't have even noticed because it was such a long set. But we're like, no. I was like, let's do something different. And I look at him and I'm like, Michael, make something up. And he looks at me like panicked. He's like, make something up? And I'm like, make something up. So he starts playing this song, and it was gorgeous. Turns out it was one he had already written, just a instrumental called Tears No More. And I started singing with it, and I just came up with words, and Goodbye, the last song on Lemon Tree, happened. I don't think we changed really anything at all about it. Like, all the lyrics and the melodies and all that are the same on the album as it was that night. I think maybe I'd switched like one word or something, but it's pretty much the same. And so
cool.
that was the moment we knew. And all the people afterwards are coming up to us telling us, like, we needed to put out an album. They're like, you should put up an album. And Michael's like, Julia, they're all saying we need to put out an album. And I'm like, let's do it. So then 2020 rolled around. We didn't have anything better to do. So we sat around and wrote and recorded and put out an album.
Lemon Tree.
Lemon Tree.
Tune into Lemon Tree. Check that out on however you listen to music. And that song is on that album.
Yep, it's the last
one. It's good stuff. So let's hear a couple of your songs. What do you think you want to play for us?
Oh, okay.
And we're going to do a little set change here and take a quick break. But what are you won't feel it if you're listening or watching. It'll be seamless. But we're going to take a little break, change the setting. What do you think you're going to do?
So I prepared 2 songs. Both of them are not on either of the albums.
Oh.
I was going to do some on the albums, but then I decided not to. Because you can look up the album.
Sure.
Figured I'd do something that is coming out soon.
Be unique. Instead,
perfect. Because this will be the only way to really hear it.
That'd be great.
So I'm going to do In My Dreams, which is the first one that I completed and performed at 13 years old. And that's coming out soon. And then I'm also doing Karma, which I recorded with a rock band I played with a while back called Lonnie Fisher and the Funeral. And it's going to be released soon as well. So, but I wrote both of those. And In My Dreams, I'm going to be recording with Michael. So
nice.
So a little bit of both. I have 2 more albums coming out. I'm kind of following suit with the whole first solo crazy
be
weird
released
one.
Next year kind of
and
thing.
Folk. I'm hoping for early next year, mid next year.
Okay.
It's not super scheduled, but yeah, probably next year.
Nice. All right.
So 2 more.
Cool. We're gonna move to those songs now. Thank you.
Oh,
Great
thank
stuff.
you. Hello, my name is Julia Reynolds, and this is my song In My Dreams. Since you left me, my soul's been heavy. It's been hard not hearing your voice anymore. I kept trying to think of things to make me feel better some more. But that's just another closed door. I used to think about our future together and how someday our life would be better, the joining of 2 pure hearts. But somehow we ended up apart. So I want you to know that I am sending my love through each flower you see. With each flower be thinking of me. With each petal that's in view, know that I am thinking of you. And I know that it's hard, but we'll never part in my dreams.
too, 'cause every night I dream. Sending my love through each flower you see, with each flower be thinking of me, with each petal that's in view. No, that I am thinking of you. Sending my love through each flower you see, with each flower be thinking of me, with each petal that's in view. No, that I am thinking of you. And I know that it's hard, but we'll never part in my dreams. Oh, in my dreams.
Hey, you made it to the end. Thanks for listening all the way through on this episode. By the way, if you're not already a supporter, go to spiritualityadventures.com, sign up for one of our monthly supports, and you will receive our bonus content. You'll receive lots of interesting information about our guests. Many of our musicians will do special bonus songs and record a song. So I want to encourage you to do that. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Be sure and subscribe. Be sure and share any of the episodes that you like. And be sure and make comments if you like them as well. This helps us get Spirituality Adventures out there to more listeners, more watchers. So whatever platform you're using, subscribe, like, share, make comments, and go to our website, sign up for our team, and be a part of the team support. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.